Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world right now. I'm going to allow everybody a few minutes to kind of hop in, but excited to be here today. I'm Jeanette from Digital Niche Agency, and we are super excited to bring together our investor community for a live conversation around what Zero Carb Life is building and why this moment matters. Today's session is designed to give you a closer look at the company and the traction behind it. So we're going to walk through how Zero Carb Life is redefining snacks by building them around real protein instead of carbs, and what that means for the future of food. So I'm joined by CEO Omar Atia, who has extensive experience at some of the biggest Fortune 500 food companies as an executive in R&D and operations. We're also going to leave time at the end for a live Q&A, so you'll have the opportunity to ask questions directly. Um, Keep in mind that we are in reservation mode on WeFunder. I will be dropping the link directly in the chat, so you can always find out more there. But with that, Omar, I'm going to hand it over to you. Please take it away.
I appreciate it, Jeanette. My hand was a little sensitive on the mouse there, so I kept flipping. I really appreciate it. And yes, my experience in Fortune 500 companies really drove me to always want to transition into making food that where the claims we were making in marketing were very much tied to the actual positive functionality, what we were delivering with the product, both in terms of quality and function. And that's really what the journey did for me and took me to the startup Zero Carb Life in 2020. Our mission is to transform health through craveable foods. And as you'll see, why we chose that. But before doing so, I'd like to share we're testing the waters to gauge investor interest in an offering that's under regulation crowdfunding. No money or other consideration is being solicited, and if sent, will not be accepted until we go live, and no offer to buy securities will be accepted, and no part of the purchase price will be received until a Form C is filed, which is hopefully very soon, and will be completed for us to go live. Until then, any indication of interest involves no obligation on your part or commitment of any kind. The problem we're solving is that the healthiest foods don't taste good. And unfortunately, a lot of people have gotten used to that. We go to the aisle and we want to consume something that's good for us. We look at the ingredient line, there's a lot of things we can't pronounce, or we take it home and it doesn't taste that good. And really about 116 million Americans in surveys have said the same thing, that the reason they don't stay consistent eating healthy food is because it just doesn't taste good. It doesn't give that same feeling. So taste and indulgence is missing. The other thing is that um, in order to maintain muscle, in order to have a healthy set of macros, there's really more protein needed from the different foods that we consume than what we currently consume as Americans. We consume a lot of simple carbs, we consume a lot of processed foods, a lot of saturated fats, especially when it comes to craveable foods. So the idea is that craveable foods also give quite positive macros, including protein. And the third is that if you are having an eye on carbs, the low carb options just fall short. They either fall short on giving you the right amount of protein or they fall short in terms of course, taste and indulgence. And that's what we've found in our research, and that's what we launched the company to solve. Where others fall short, we hit the mark. We win. We actually have the highest protein to calorie ratio pizza on the market. We have the highest protein to calorie ratio chip on the market, chips line on the market. Most products will compromise on one or more pillars, and those are the three pillars I talked about a little bit ago: the taste, the protein, or being true low carb, not just net carb and then in the end sneaking some carbs into your product. We also deliver that indulgent taste. Everybody that's tasted our product is blown away. They don't believe it's not made from simple carbs. And we have a clean label. And the reason it's clean isn't because we have to do these wild research things. It's mainly because we have very simple, few ingredients in our products. Um, and the way we do it is through technology. And so I'll get to that here in a minute, why we're able to use only a few ingredients and get this amazing line of products. But our product family, we launched with pizza crust, and it's real pizza crust that tastes like a thin crust pizza, not falls apart, not loses its texture or mouthfeel. And then we also turned into frozen pizza once we saw that the pizza crust was very successful. We have Life Chips, which is the line of chips that is with the regular flavors that people are used to, the traditional flavors. And then we have Lava Crisp chips, which is for the wildly intense heat chips that a lot of young people are really consuming at a very high rate right now. and they taste better than, in a lot of focus groups we've done, they actually taste better than those key brands like Takis and other intense heat brands. And then upstream, we've already developed and we have in patent other products, taco shells, crumbs that are replacement for bread crumbs, pasta, as well as a few other products that are in our patents. So we've pioneered this through a chicken-based formulation. We use chicken as dough. That's our moat. And we don't add additives, we don't add binders. We use time and temperature in a very unique way. That makes it possible for us to scale, makes it possible for us to keep the clean line of ingredients. And that's what has made us able to make these products that fuel the body, have craveable taste, and at the same time don't have a crazy set of ingredients. Um, because we've done that, we've been very successful. We've sold 500,000 units to date. We have over 70,000 customers just in our e-commerce side, and that's not even counting the people who have picked up our product on the shelf at Target. We're in 48 states, the continental United States, all over, and we are selling in 556 Target stores. Our chips are changing the game. Like I said, we have the highest protein to calorie ratio while having that traditional chip taste. And then we have Lava Crisp, which no one else has really launched in terms of that intense heat with very, very clean ingredients. That's the key. It's not just high protein and high protein to calorie, but it's also clean ingredients. We use red beets for the food coloring, for instance. We don't use artificial food coloring. We have the same simple ingredients that make the product. And so that's allowed us to optimize. When you don't add additives and binders, then you don't have to have a lot more saturated fat and calories and simple carbs. And our competitive positioning shows it. You can see why we have the highest protein to calorie ratio compared to all of the other brands that are making protein chips, and the taste, either parity with the best ones or genuinely the best of the best with our jalapeno ranch flavor, is our hero flavor. And so we really are delivering here. And it's the same thing with pizza. You can see, comparing 0 grams of carbs and 37 grams of protein with what others have claimed as to low carb crusts. You can see how much carbs they have and how much protein they have. It pales in comparison. And that's what's made some of the biggest restaurant chains, we're in very high traction with them to actually launch our crust on their menu very soon as well. And then we're fan favorites. So once people try it, they stay. That's what makes our repeat purchase rate very positive, our long-term value from customers, which has made our ROAS, our return on ad spend, get better and better over the months and the years. And then this moment in history is not like any other moment. On top of everything I just said, we have this transformation that's happening in the US and Canada where people are adopting, actually, it's all over the world, but specifically to our customer base, US and Canada, where really GLP-1s are taking the world by storm. You have an adoption rate of 28% plus of the population that are using GLP-1 drugs, and that means they need to consume less calories, more protein based on their nutritionist and doctor recommendation. And that makes them want something craveable for those few calories. You definitely don't want to eat not tasty food when you're consuming so little calories. And so we hit the mark on all three of those. And that's actually why a lot of GI doctors are on our cap table as angel investors. We have athletes on our cap table, NBA and NFL athletes on our cap table as angel investors. And we have 2 nutritionists on our cap table as angel investors. They understand what we're doing is different. And one of our leading VCs is actually a health tech VC that chose to go into food because of our transforming of health. And it's not lost on anyone that's watching, I'm sure, that this is a truly massive opportunity. This data is even probably a little outdated already because this is from last year, and the acceleration rate is tremendous, especially when it comes to high protein, and especially when it comes to healthy food, low additives, better ingredient line in general. It's just rapidly increasing rate of acceleration that's making this market opportunity huge for us. And we're very blessed to be at this moment, having been at the forefront of highest protein to calorie and specifically delivering true clean ingredient, low carb. And our momentum proves it. When you look at Q1 that ended a little bit ago compared to Q4, all we had to do is really start to put some gas on the e-commerce advertisement and capitalize on going to the people that we know want this product. And our return on ad spend showed it. Our daily rate of revenue shows it. And we're continuing to leverage that growth. And now we're on the retail shelves of Target stores. We're in 556 Target stores. Our velocity is better than the most of better than you brands that are on the market. We were just reviewing the data today, actually, with our analyst, and we are poised to be able to grow that into potentially all 1,600 targets within the next 12 months, potentially other retailers that have been very interested, but we've held back in order to stay disciplined and get very good learning with Target as we grow and succeed so that we can replicate that and not just go on shelves without discipline. So that every dollar that an investor puts in with us is spent in a very disciplined way because that's what we learned over the years. That's the beauty of being a 6-year-old growth startup. In addition to that, we've actually learned also how to use that money in in the wisest way to reduce our cost of goods sold, to increase our margins. And that's by us actually having full control of the supply chain. We've had common partnership acquisition of supply chain, which has allowed us to reduce our cost of goods sold, to improve our scalability and delivery, and to ensure that no matter how much customers and demand we acquire within a short amount of time, that we can scale very rapidly. And that's what's really allowed us to do this scaling at the beginning of this year without a hiccup. We had 52% quarter-over-quarter growth. We've raised $7 million to date in terms of, and every round we've had, we've oversubscribed from our target in terms of equity rounds. We have 1 patent issued and 3 that are pending, and then 4 more that we just talked to the attorney about in a different patent family that we're going to pursue. We fully control our manufacturing and supply chain, like I said. We have 25% repeat purchase rate in 556 Target stores, 8 plus additional products, and continuing patents that can protect all of those. We already have patents that protect our products upstream, but in terms of the scaling processes for them as well, we will patent those. And that gives us a moat that can't be really navigated by a competitor very easily. And that's why we can't be copied. We have proprietary technology that's patented, and candidly, it's lower cost for us. And we have this unique position when we took control of our manufacturing. It's not easy for an animal protein-based company in the US to actually make products that are traditionally not made with animal protein because there's 2 governing bodies in the US when it comes to foods. There's the USDA, which is for animal protein products, and then there's the FDA, which is for every other food product. And so normally a plant that makes pizza and makes chips isn't a USDA certified facility at all because it doesn't have more than 2% meat in its products. But we do. We have a USDA facility that makes pizza, that makes chips, because we have more than 2% chicken in our products. We have about 91% chicken in our pizza crust. That's how we get that high protein. And it's all clean, white chicken breast, right in the middle of Amish countries where we make our products. So in Indiana. So it's fully controlled manufacturing. We have a retail launch pad that's already successful at Target, and we know we can replicate it. Our D2C engine, that's what we've been actually working through since 2020. And so we've become experts. Even those of us that weren't experts, like myself as CEO, I've learned so much from our amazing e-commerce team. And now we all have incredible ideation when it comes to return on investment for direct to consumer. And we learn so much from the consumers because we have that loyal following. And so we're doing that value to the customer, indulgence and wellness. People can bring this to parties, Super Bowl parties, their dinner parties, pizza parties, when they're tired on a Tuesday night and enjoy that craveable food that gets some stress out. And at the same time, it actually builds your body versus makes you bloated and uncomfortable. And that's why we're endorsed by what we call industry insiders, the NBA players, nutritionists, the doctors, and the NFL players, and that's why they love our product and invested in it. Our milestones are fairly straightforward. Succeed at Target and expand with retail in Target and others. Succeed with the e-commerce growth we're doing with subscriptions now in order to grow our LTV and then expand that. And then really maximize that retail exposure because retail definitely has initially it's very capital intensive in the first year of retail launches, and then after that margins get much better because once there's awareness and once the customer base becomes aware that they can get the product there, there's less promotional spend and less upfront spend for the customer itself, the retailer. And so this is where we're headed with our milestone, and we have a line of sight. We have a light at the end of the tunnel, seeing where the exit will be, because we also have clear strategic partners that can be potential investors that we will be going and pursuing and have already initial relationships with that would be very interested in acquisition or in being part of an acquisition. So that's our playbook. We do want to get to the exit, to by 28, 29. We believe that with our current trajectory of revenue, which is fairly conservative here. We believe that we can get to that. And that's by not just by whims and desires, that's actually by looking at competitive set of growth startups that have exited successfully in recent years and not in the high, very generous capital environments, but in the very conservative capital environment like what we have now. So this is based on a conservative capital environment. It's based on knowing where we are today and what's secured in terms of business line of sight. And we believe this is what we're going to achieve. And so this is really the moment for others to join us. And we have an incredible leadership team, very hardworking, very in love with our mission. They live it in their own lives. And for instance, I'm obsessed with protein to calorie counting half the year. When I'm focusing on my fitness, I take pictures of the food, count the calories, count the protein, make sure I'm hitting my protein target. So we all believe in this. We're not just doing it because we know that there's a trend out there. We know that that's not a trend. We know it's here to stay because people, as they become more aware of what's in their food, they want to be very conscious that how can I find food that I enjoy and still meets the goals of my health being better and longevity. Our institutional investor board and advisors are incredible advisors as well, very involved, helpful, and very connected to the CPG world. We have one advisor that's from PepsiCo on the Frito-Lay side. We have another advisor that's in CPG on the Fortune 500 side, and another one who grew a big CPG, confectionery company from 10 million in sales to 1.5 billion in sales within a 7-year time frame. So we have some great advisors, and it's all because they believe in our mission and see it. We're raising just 1.5 million on this in this round, and so you can be part of that. We've raised already 263,000 on the WeFunder even before going live, and we'll be going live very soon. So you're very welcome to be part of this journey with us, and we really would love to answer all and every questions. Have you tried the product? Have you tell your friends and be part of this journey with us one way or the other?
Awesome. Thank you for that, Omar. That was awesome to learn more and kind of go into depth. I think the thing that is really standing out to me, I know you showed a slide with the team and
Mhm.
it mentioned life foods. So, zero carb isn't just one product, there's multiple products, right? So tell me about the growth there. I mean,
Yeah.
just in Target, I think it's the frozen pizzas, but everywhere else you have chips. Tell me
Yep.
about the growth and kind of what else you have envisioned for the Life Foods brand.
Absolutely. So, look, we're the highest protein to calorie ratio product on the market with regards to pizza, with regards to chips. And our goal is to really look at every single category, every product possible, not just made from chicken dough, but in general. We've had some upstream work on protein bars. And we believe we want something that is tasting as close to a candy bar as possible, but gives those macros. So that's taking a little more work. But really, our vision is to have a comprehensive platform and we're open even to partnership with other companies, but we believe this is where it needs to be. This is where foods need to be craveable, high protein to calorie, delivering the right clean ingredients to do so. And so we're not stopping. We are obviously focusing on saturating the market with our products, and because we have great products already, so we don't want to dilute our focus. And at the same time, this company, the sky is the limit for whether it's that we take it there or an acquirer takes it there. Highest protein to calorie being the call to action, being the mission via indulgence and craveable foods is a big deal, and we'll get customers to come and never leave.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask a little bit more about your background too. I know we kind of talked about, being an executive at some of the top Fortune 500 companies, but walk us through that. I mean, that's huge experience, right? And then kind of tell me what inspired you to want to take that information and start your own company. I mean, you've come a long way, so definitely want to dive into the ins and outs of that.
Yeah, I mean, I was very interested from very young age, when I was early in college, I knew I wanted to be a chemical engineer partly so I could see what I make on the shelf. And so I graduated with a chemical engineering degree, immediately started a master's degree in industrial and mechanical while working for Procter& Gamble. So Procter& Gamble was almost like another university in and of itself because so much to learn about R&D, and I was in consumer research at the time. So I got to really hear exactly what consumers care about and how to translate that into actually making a product because it was a part of R&D when I was there, and also how to look at analysis of data. This was well before big data. This is in the years where we would do Nielsen studies and get the data and analyze and do breakouts. So I understood very well that there's a voice of customer, and that voice of customer is what brings success, not you being a genius and coming up with ideas in a vacuum. You can have the best idea, and it turns out that the market says to you they don't care, they won't pay for it. So that journey, coupled with seeing firsthand that sometimes, and I'm not saying this about any specific company, sometimes marketing, there's a lot of psychology versus functionality that's conveyed to consumers, whether it's in the commercials and the imagery, or whether it's in what specific aspect of the product is being highlighted, even though it's minimal percentage. Those things didn't sit well with me. I felt like that's not transparency with the consumer. And so what I had made my mind up to do is that once I had the ability to have a brand that I could run and that I could have people with me on that mission, that it would be all about number one, functionality and delivering on what we're telling the consumer we are delivering. And number two, to always hear what the market says. Of course, cut out the noise, but to clearly see the signals and follow the signals from the market, not from your own quote unquote genius, because no one is genius. The market is its entity and it tells you where you need to go.
Yeah, definitely, data and numbers don't lie. So it's great that you're able to take that, read it, consider it, and it sounds like it's still a part of your process now when it comes to pushing out new products or expanding. So that's definitely great to hear.
Yeah, and we've done, everything. When you're later in the journey, it sounds like rainbows and roses, but along the journey, we've definitely had to make pivots, right? Because you're really when you start a growth startup, you don't start it expecting it to be the 1 or 2% of companies that the first iteration is what is wildly successful. That's the rarest and unlikeliest of scenarios. The likeliest of scenario is that you're launching something so that you can basically have it be an experiment and you're learning. And then you iterate based on that learning and then you relaunch or you pivot while you're still in the market. And so in one instance, we actually pulled product from Sprouts, for instance, which we were doing very well in terms of margin and sales. But we pulled the product because we knew that in order to scale better, we needed to have higher margin and we needed to have a slightly better product. And so we reformulated to a larger pizza so that it's a very better value proposition and it's actually thinner, so it's a better thin crust taste and more craveable, and it gives us better margin, gives the customer better margin, but for the consumer, it's more in line with what they wanted. So it was sort of the trifecta, but the only way we could do that is actually to take a step back. And sometimes taking a step back allows you to take 10 forward, whereas all you see at the moment when you're just wanting to grow, grow, grow is I'm going to take a step back when I don't have the time to. But if you see the 10 steps forward, and that's what the market helps you see. And that's what a little bit of patience and discipline also helps. So it definitely helps for me that I had, 15 years of prior experience with big companies to be able to have some of that discipline and bring it to my team.
That's awesome. Yeah. Tell me about the Sprout situation. So it sounds like you guys were in Sprouts, which is huge. I love Sprouts. I shop at Sprouts all the
Yeah.
time. Shop
And
at
we'll be there again. We when we had an amazing relationship with them but when we pulled the product, we were very candid. We said, look, we can get a better margin product out there for you guys and for us. And we believe even though we're doing decent on velocities, we know the product we get out there can be more incredible with velocities. And so we did that intentionally and waited and did it very in with it in team effort. So we waited till there was a reset, so it wouldn't be like we're shorting supply or anything like that. And we timed everything right, and we did the changes, and we're now ready because we validated the product in e-commerce, we validated the product with Target, and so we're ready to go to Sprouts and everyone else. So we'll be
Yeah,
there.
no,
Yeah.
I was just basically posing that question to say 10 steps forward and now you're in Target. You can reset and actually go back to Sprouts. I didn't know if you guys were still currently there or working your way back, but
Yeah,
you're
no, we're gonna go back. Yeah.
okay, awesome. Um, Speaking of all of your different partnerships and stores that you're in, you've sold, I think, upwards of 500,000 products now.
Yes.
What is the biggest driver of that growth?
So I think for sure, probably the biggest percentage of it is the loyal following have looked for this type of product, and once they found it, they stay home and they keep ordering it. So
Mhm.
that's definitely a big part of our success. And then the word of mouth, as well as our very disciplined way of advertising to figure out who is like that consumer and to scale based on that niche and based on that consumer ideal client profile. And then when we launch in market, like our launch at Target, we've been very um, you can collaborative with the target team to advertise in the right way. And our initial launch, when we agreed with them that it would be not in the entire 1,600 stores, we chose the stores where we would have the consumer that can be the first one to then make everyone else aware, most likely in those parts of the US. That's why, for instance, we have 286 of our 556 stores in California. So, so that itself, understanding our consumer profile and continuing to communicate to them, give them awareness of our product has definitely helped our growth and the number of products sold. And then in general, being able to, just being able to stay disciplined and we get the product on menu in a restaurant, people taste it on the menu in the restaurant. They then wanted to have something at home, and so they find out that we also have frozen pizza because everywhere we go, we make sure our brand is represented.
Hmm. Amazing. So with that, I know, there's a lot of great things with success and being in the different stores, but what is maybe the hardest part of launching a food product that nobody warns you about?
Food is probably one of the hardest industries, to be very candid, to launch and succeed a growth startup in. I mean, I'll say what the hardest for me is, but there's probably, if I can mention a top five, but one is for sure the fact that the way the system works is there's more than one player. If you're not just selling e-commerce, if you're selling in retail, which is definitely where you want to go in order to scale eventually, no matter how big you get on e-commerce, which we're doing very well on e-commerce, but you still have to scale in retail because a lot of people still, that's how they get their food. There's a lot of players involved that have to also make money. And so you have distributors, you have the retailers. Even if the retailer does distribution from themselves, there's still a cost associated with that. So getting the product to the consumer, especially when it's a frozen product, which is what our crust and pizza is, it's very, very capital intensive. That's one thing. The second thing is it's an Adams business. It's not a tech business. So an Adams business has inventory, and an inventory has to have turns in order to get the cash back into the business. And when you scale and grow, and when you're going to a big retailer and they have terms that are 60 day payment, so you're having to front end fund all of that for 60 days. And so growth means more capital intensiveness. The money comes back, but during that time that you're growing, there's spend. And so I think capital management and discipline is probably the hardest part because when you see opportunity for growth and you're wanting to get that top line, it's very, very tempting to just go forward in an undisciplined way. So that's the hardest part is really managing that very well in a disciplined way while still maintaining very good top line growth. And the second thing is really awareness, right? So when you have an Adams business, chips, for instance, you can get at a ton of points of interruption because people can look at chips in the aisle, they can look at chips on close to the cash register. But when you have a product like pizza, people have to be in the freezer aisle. So managing how do we launch in retail? How do we get the right position and merchandising in the store? How do we make sure that we're raising awareness so people know to go and look for us in the store? Those are very complex and nuanced aspects and require creativity, testing, and pivoting, as well as capital. And so all of those things, and that's so you can look at it as sort of business, and then that all of that as a growth startup and as an innovation company, we still have to have a moat, and so we still have to continue to advance our R&D, continue to scale in a way that's not replicable, continue to can maintain the uniqueness of clean ingredients and craveability. We can't just launch a product that isn't craveable, and we can't launch a product that's craveable with the traditional way of making it craveable, which is salt, fat, or sugar. So it's not easy to hit that formula. So those are all the challenges of a growth startup like ours, and foods in general is challenging. And then you add to it, we
Yeah.
have a mission, and it needs to be on mission, and so that's additional challenge.
Yeah, definitely sounds challenging, but if anybody is perfect for it, it sounds like you with your background, with, the way that you're able to read the market and shift, and then also your passion, right, to stay true to it. You live it, whether it's counting your calories. You said half a year you're really intense, and then the other half are you kind of relaxed. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll have
exactly.
to talk about your
Yeah.
fitness routine, but
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's not just, that, it's also it doesn't hurt that founders have to also be willing to get punched and get back up, or sometimes not even fall down and they get punched, just kind of fall back and stand back up. And so being 6 years in helps as well because there's a lot to learn when it comes to growth startup versus a big company that has, capital is not constrained necessarily. So there's definitely a lot of learning that I've been able to make it along with my team over the years, and we've gotten, much, much better. We weren't just superheroes when we started, it's a journey and you learn as you go.
Yeah, it's all about growth and continuing to learn. So that's great. My next question would be more about, I know you have this moat that you keep referring to, but in particular, your manufacturing facility, you guys own it. How does that change your ability to scale?
It drastically improves it. So, and it's not just, and when you say own it, I just want it to be clear to everyone that's considering being part of ZeroCarb Life that we have common partnership ownership. So it's not an asset on the balance sheet nor a liability on ZeroCarb Life, which is intentional. We don't want it to be a liability on ZeroCarb Life, but it has definitely liberated a lot for us. Number one, cost of goods sold and having a clear trajectory for reduction of cost of goods sold is an insane opportunity to have as a growth startup because usually, especially if it's a unique product, you usually have one contract manufacturer and they own, what can happen to you to some extent because if their costs go up, your costs go up and they pass on to you their margin as well. And sometimes they raise their margin. And so there's a lot there that you have to put up with when it's a contract manufacturer. It also has liberated us to really be able to foresee and have clear transparency as to what the factory is capable of and what it's not, and when to grow ahead of scaling. So, for instance, we have line of sight right now to an 800 store restaurant chain, 800 restaurant chain in Canada. And now we are able, by the way, to export, and we also have halal certification for our plant. And so we can export to Canada, we can export to other parts. We also have an order for chips from Kuwait, of all places, so we're exporting to other places. But this Canadian chain wants to launch in the fall. If we were the contract manufacturer and we said, hey, we want to launch in the fall, and they said, look, we don't have the equipment to do that right away, we'd have to build inventory today, and we need you guys to pay for it today. That would be a very difficult thing for us to navigate a zero carb life. That means we're building inventory 6 months ahead of launch. Whereas now we can wait because we made sure we have that scalability, we invested in it, and we know what unit operations we need to bring on and can look creatively for the least expensive way to grow and scale, and then be ready while at the same time not expending significant capital on the front end. And so it's really improved our cost of goods sold improvement path. It's improved our scalability and growth ability without hesitation. And it allows us still to have redundancy because we can still qualify contract manufacturers, but not have the bad terms as our permanent terms. They're just a backup contingency plan B.
Amazing. And I know you just kind of spoke about exporting. You talked about some other relationships that are potentially growing. But in the next, I guess, 6 months to a year, what does success look like for you guys? I mean, probably continuing to maintain some of those relationships and grow them, but let me know what that looks like. 6 months to a year timeline. What does success look like?
So I would say 3 months we closed the WeFunder, and whoever missed out, they're okay because they could come back maybe later. But 6 months we definitely want our LTV, our long-term value, to continue to improve because we just launched subscriptions for our e-commerce. So on e-commerce side, LTV is the name of the game. That's our call to action right now, our rallying cry. And on the retail side, it's getting the target growth, both in terms of velocity at the shelf, average per store, as well as the growth of the number of stores. And then 12 months is replicating the model that was successful at Target into other retailers that are already, they're already in the waiting queue. They're in the green room for us. Whereas we wanted it to be a collaborative, hey, this is when we actually want to launch. Because again, it's about having the capital to promote and knowing the exact formula of how to be disciplined in spending that capital. So once we have the success map and formula with Target, then we can replicate it. So that's our 12-month journey and really getting from that 4 million in revenue to that 11 million revenue trajectory for 27, so that we can then be on path for positive EBITDA and a 4x of that revenue in 28.
Awesome. I know we were talking about the WeFunder raise and closing that eventually and then moving on, but I guess with the funds from WeFunder, and this kind of ties into the next question, but there's other brands maybe with 10x the budget. How are you competing with them, right? And is the WeFunder campaign going to assist with that, or how do you, I guess it's a two-part question,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
compete with brands 10x budget and then closing out the WeFunder campaign?
So we have very clear metrics that we know we want to achieve before we go to our strategic potential partner that will then invest and lead our Series A. So we're not saying this money will last us as a runway for 2 or 3 years. It'll probably last us for 1 to 2, 1 year to 18 months because we are very disciplined with how we spend our money. And we're also very lean, candidly. In 2022, something happened to the world, which was you could start to have a lot of things that humans did being done by AI. And so that's helped us drastically, of course, to stay lean. So we cut that coupled with our discipline on ad spend on the e-commerce side as we grow, coupled with, or I guess tripled with the fact that we know exactly what we want to hit and are laser focused on it in order to then raise our A. And we're in early conversations with those potential partners. So we're not doing it in a vacuum. We have potential partners, we've had meetings with them, we know what they would be looking for, where we want to be, what kind of valuation we want to get to for our existing shareholders and the new ones that would be part of WeFunder. So that's where we are able, that's how we're able to sort of leverage what will come in from WeFunder and stay the course and get to where we want to be.
And then I know this is WeFunder is equity crowdfunding, right? So Reg CF. Why did you decide to go that route versus, starting out with traditional VCs?
Sure. Yeah, and everybody asks us that, because, especially those that were with us since the early on, because we've oversubscribed every round when we've gone to the market for capital. It was mainly because we see we're at this moment where more awareness can really bring us more traction, both in terms of top line as well as in terms of, the next step. So we just felt that this is the right moment to go to the community. Number one, we'd like some of our customers that have been with us since the beginning to get a chance to own a piece of it. And then, in general, we felt that the more people that can find out about this through the WeFunder platform and through other means of us advertising the raise, it'll also advertise for our company in general and get more traction.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. So a few more questions here, but what's the version of zero carb life you're building towards, and what does winning look like? I think there was a slide on there where early projections of maybe exiting. Is that what you're building towards in the long term?
Yeah, certainly we're building towards an exit, and what we'd like to see is we'd like to see that exit be one where the mission we've achieved is so strong that it absolutely continues with whoever acquires the company. We believe that this highest protein to calorie ratio, of course, competitors will come after it. We want it to continue to be very uh, flag bearing. We want to blaze the trail so that other companies do copy it. We want people to have the opportunity to have low calorie, high protein, good for you food that's craveable, that tastes amazing, and that has clean ingredients. If we can transition that many companies try to follow our path, that's actually a good thing, and we want to be leading the category. And in the process, those who have worked hard to make it happen to be rewarded with an exit and for it to continue with whoever will buy it.
Amazing. So I know you mentioned you guys are at a moment right now, and this moment feels right for raising the Reg CF round. But to an investor, retail investor in particular, what would be their top reasons to really come in right now?
I think the uniqueness of this moment, our value and the upside versus value right now is very unique, like no other moment that we've had in our journey because of the trajectory, the retail traction, the e-commerce discipline on spend, the fact that, awareness will only hockey stick from here as we get more and more retailers, bigger restaurant chains, which is what's kind of happening in terms of the traction. So, waiting, first of all, not sure if there will be an opportunity for sort of the community, or you could say the crowd, to be able to invest, um, to the public in later terms. But even if they did, this is probably the moment where it could be the most valuable.
Awesome. Any final words that you want to talk about today? I know we went over a lot from your experience to growth to what might be next. Yeah, I'm super excited to continue watching your journey. Where can everybody find you? I know we're on WeFunder at Zero Carb Life. Can
Yep,
connect with you on LinkedIn and ask questions. Uh,
absolutely.
but yeah, super
Yeah.
excited to have spoke
And
with
our website, we'd love people to go to our website, order product if you haven't before, try it for yourself, see why it's wildly different and achieving these goals and the mission that we want. And definitely consider being part of this journey.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. As mentioned, you can find Omar on WeFunder currently, and on LinkedIn. So you guys have a good rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.